All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this final webcast in our four-part ERP educational series. My name is Brad Robinson. I'm with Liberty Technology Advisors. And today we are going to be talking about harnessing actionable data for informed decision making. Here's a quick look at today's agenda. We'll give a quick series update, introduce the panel, and then spend most of the time talking about harnessing actual data for informed decision making, really what everyone came here to talk about. And we will close up with some question and answers. Just some general housekeeping about questions. We do have that designated time at the end, but please don't hesitate to submit questions via the Q&A feature or the chat feature, and we'll try to address those if we can throughout the webcast, or else we'll save them towards the end. Just a quick look at the series. If you haven't been able to catch the first three webcasts, or if you want to go back and watch them, they are available to watch on the Liberty Technology Advisors YouTube page, as well as online. So if you want to go back, definitely keep an eye out for that. And obviously today we're going to be talking about harnessing actionable data and informed decision making. Today we are going to be joined by Steve Gibbs, a senior solution engineer with Sage EM, and John Berglund, co-founder and partner at Liberty Technology Advisors. As you can see on the screen, there's a little bit more information about both Steve and John. And with that, I would like to go ahead and pass it over to John to start talking about actionable data and informed decision making at a high level, and then drilling it down from there. So, John, take it away.
Thanks, Brad, and thanks everybody for coming to our webcast. So first off, just want to start with a quick overview so we have a common understanding. So what is actionable data? It is data that can cause you to do something. There's a lot of data out there, and people look at a lot of data and a lot of information, but they can't do anything necessarily with it. It's more informative, but sometimes that information is just overload. And so you really want to look at data that truly is actionable. And you want to use that so you can make informed decisions. And that's critical because it's obvious it's critical, but it's critical to have the right data to make an informed decision so that you're not making poor decisions based on poor data. Some of the key impacts are truly being able to understand how your business is doing, understand getting a version of the truth that's very important, and that's one of the benefits of having one version of the truth. And you want to keep that to one version of the truth as much as possible. Everybody's mired in spreadsheets. We're going to talk a little bit about this later. But trying to get the data from the exact source is critical because that will be the most accurate data that you will get. So the power of analytics. What are you going to do with all of this and possibly new data that you're getting? The correlations that you can run, the metrics that you can run, how you put those together, again, can give you a true vision of how the business is doing and how they are able to and morph to be able to do so. All of those are really critical elements to what you can possibly do with the new data. The problem that we have right now, and there's a quote out there that I will certainly botch, but it says there's so much information that there's no knowledge. And so there's no time to analyze the data when it's coming from multiple sources. And so the issue is you've got a lot of analysts, and we're going to talk about this in a bit too, but you have a lot of analysts that are spending more time just gathering data and not analyzing the data. So they just end up sending out data, and that data just gets sent out, and people don't truly understand it. And if they don't understand it, they don't trust it, and they start going to other sources for data to see if they can back up what that data is telling them. There is something from the Harvard Business Review in 2017 that stated that 80% of analyst time is spent discovering and preparing data, not analyzing. We find in a lot of companies, you've got a lot of pretty highly paid people And those people are spending their time gathering data, not analyzing it and giving commentary on it. So when you get that data, you need to make sure you know what it is and what it means. And if somebody's analyzing it ahead of time, it validates that data and gives it a lot more meaning, a lot more truth. Pre-built analytics and dashboards. This is a great one. There's lots of info and data and little knowledge, as we talked about previously. The problem with dashboards, people go overboard, and they go overboard on notifications too. And so you have so many things that you're looking at that you're not sure what to do with them. And when you build these, what we find at a lot of our client sites, and specifically talk about one, when they build these, they're coming at it from different angles. And if there's not a single version of the truth, and if it's not poignant to what you need to do, then it's going to be hard to understand, and they can be conflicting. So these have to be built, the dashboards and the, and the data that goes into them have to be built in a hierarchical fashion so that one leads to another, and it can make more sense. And then you can have the drill down capability to drive towards actions. So you really want to be judicious with the dashboards and how you're using those dashboards. We've got a specific client that I got called into the CFO's office, and the CFO said, "What does this metric mean on my dashboard?" And I said, "Well, that depends." And he said, "That's a very consulting answer." And I said, "Well, that specific metric means that your customer service rates are very good, but it also means that your inventory is very high." So he had a controller in, who, by the way, had the best controller name ever. His name was Mike Cash. And that controller said, "That's an awful metric." And then he had the vice president operations, and he said, "That's a great metric. That means that our on-time shipping is through the roof." But it wasn't that the processes were improved, it's just that they bought more inventory. So it's important to tie the metrics and tie the dashboards together so that they build upon one another, and it gives you actionable data. So you can look at that and then say, you know what, we need to improve our business processes, because by improving our business processes, we can lower inventory and still keep our on-time shipping at a very high rate. So it drives towards an action. And all those, you're hearing this repeated a lot, but all of those put together are really what we're trying to achieve and where we're trying to go. Any questions?
It does not look like we have any questions that have come in yet.
Okay. So one version of the truth, you've heard us say this a bunch of different times, and how many times have you in business been out there and you've got a spreadsheet to your right, the spreadsheet to your left, one's older, one's not. You're not sure which one has the most correct data on it. People aren't on the same page. And again, if they're not on the same page and your data is not correct, your data is aged, people will stop believing in the data. When they stop believing in the data, again, they're going to look for sources to corroborate the data. And while they're looking for sources to corroborate the data, they're not analyzing the actual data. So it's getting everybody on that same page and making sure that everybody understands what that means. And we've seen this a lot out in the industries where people are looking at data. They just don't know what it means. And so they're going to another Excel spreadsheet or an Access database to go and verify that the data that they're seeing is correct, or they just use the other data, which may not even be correct at all. So the one version of the truth and the data clarity are very critical, and that gets everybody on the same page, which leads to a strategic alignment. So if I'm looking at data and somebody else is looking at data and we're looking at the same data, we can come to the same conclusions, or maybe we won't, but at least we're dealing with the same set of data from the same source, and we can make decisions based on that. This also allows the analysts to analyze the data and stop wasting time gathering and doing what they're really good at and what they're paid for. You get a good analyst who spends all his time gathering data, he's going to leave or she's going to leave because they don't want to just gather data. They actually want to do the analysis on the data and move up. So those are some of the main points that we see out in the industry today. And it just leads to a lot of confusion. It leads to a lot of scheduling problems. It could lead to customer service issues. It could lead to poor decisions based on poor data because there's no analysis with the data.
Great. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Steve to just demo how this looks on a modern system. So today, obviously, Steve's going to be using Sage EM, and yeah, take it away, Steve.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds. I just want to make sure. Can everybody see my screen? Hear me okay?
Yep.
And give me 1 more second. I've lost one more screen I had visible. I want to try to. Do you see the PowerPoint still? Is that correct?
I see the harnessing actionable data for informed decision making.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I had another screen that had some that actually had a kind of a live version of the webcast. I can't find that now. I've got multiple monitors working here. But thanks, John. Excellent background on challenges that businesses face with getting the right information to make those data-driven decisions. Your comment about making sure that you focus on the right metrics and not too many really resonated with me, because I'm a firm believer in, you measure 100 things, you've measured nothing. In a former life, I was actually a business leader and was responsible for doing all the business reporting and gathering metrics from across the business. So it could include information on open headcount, financial data, updates on critical projects, where all that information was at, how we were tracking against our goals. It was a very painful process. So I'm pretty confident I have felt and dealt with a lot of the pain that a number of the attendees today are faced with. And John's point about highly paid professionals spending time collecting data and not analyzing it, I was right there. I wasn't the most highly paid person at the company by any means, but I was a senior leader. I had P&L responsibility, and I did spend quite a bit of time collecting that data, and I should have been out there trying to figure out how to better run the business. Not that I didn't do that, but there was an opportunity to spend more time doing that had I been able to manage my data more efficiently. And the person I worked for was very critical, because he was kind of a believer in, in God we trust, all others bring data. So everything, and it should be that way. Every decision we made needed to be based on data, and it was a challenge for me in a past role. So I've got a few slides here before we jump into the demonstration. What is enterprise management data and analytics? This is an integral part of the enterprise management solution. It has 2 key components to it. If you look at the first bullet there, it consists of data management capabilities, and it's also a BI analytics platform. So those are, if you really distill it down to 2 key things, one not more important than the other. Without good data, you're not going to have any good visibility into the business. So you can almost argue getting the data is first and foremost, and maybe even more important than the analytics. But I say let's call them equally important at this point in time. The solution allows you to take your enterprise management data along with other data across the organization. It could be CRM data, maybe it's HR or payroll data. John mentioned data living in spreadsheets. Take all that data, put it together, and integrate it to that one version of the truth, all in one place, all accessible and all integrated together. The system is built on self-service data discovery. You're going to see a lot of out-of-the-box content. To John's point, I realize that you probably ought to take the out-of-the-box content, get rid of what you don't need, and focus on those key measures for your business. You're going to see a lot of out-of-the-box content, and you're also going to see in the demonstration how easy it is to go in and work with the data that you have to help you make better decisions. The solution also has built-in data governance and security capabilities, and it's consistent with enterprise management as a whole. So if you have a dashboard, let's say you have an individual that only has access to one legal entity, or a sales rep that should only be able to see their sales data, that data and their access privileges will be consistent both on the dashboards and the reports that you're going to see today, as well as anywhere else in enterprise management. All that security is shared. This slide here is just kind of a visual of those 2 key pieces of enterprise management data and analytics. And I'm going to call it EMDA from here on out. That's the acronym that we use. So EMDA with these 2 key components, the data management pieces along the left-hand side, and then the analytics along the right. We're going to see both of these pieces or components throughout the demonstration today. Along the left, we have access to all the Sage data. So that's inherent to the solution. Every piece of ERP data, inventory, purchasing, sales data, manufacturing data, financial data, AP, AR, et cetera, it's all accessible. You may have historical data living in another system, maybe another accounting system, another operational system. You can access that data and pull it into EMDA. And the beauty to the end user is the data doesn't look any different than the data that's currently being processed in enterprise management. They're just working with sales data, or they're just working with purchasing data. We have connectors to cloud systems like Salesforce. And it can load all the data in from spreadsheets. See a lot of businesses with spreadsheet data. Let's get it in a controlled manner and then allow users to use and report along that data with any other data in the business. Data living in databases, SQL Server, Oracle, all with these pre-built dashboards and insights with the ability to easily change that to meet your business needs. So that's enough of the slides. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this and jump into the demonstration. So here we're in enterprise management. So I've transitioned to the actual solution. And this is Sage's answer to some of those data challenges and getting the better visibility into your entire business, both functionally, organizationally, no matter how many levels of a hierarchy you have, divisions, groups, companies, sites, getting that visibility across the entire business. This is our solution for that, Sage Enterprise Management Data and Analytics. Now here, one way to consume this information is right within Enterprise Management, and that's where I'm at. I'm in Enterprise Management. I could go in here and go down to this screen and enter a new purchase order if I needed to, or go in and maintain supplier information, all from the same interface right here. You'll notice this looks like a web browser, and the reason is that it is. The solution here is fully web-enabled, browser-based. You can access it as both device agnostic and browser agnostic. So what does that mean? If you have users that are Macintosh users that use Safari, if you have users that use Internet Explorer, Google Chrome like I have here, or if you just want to access these types of insights from a mobile phone or a tablet, iPad, Android, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first dashboard. What we see listed here in these different tabs are some of our standard out-of-the-box dashboards. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of these. So what I have here is a purchasing manager's dashboard. I'm going to expand this out to a separate tab to give us a little better view into this dashboard here. And like I said, if this has information on here that's not pertinent to your business, you can easily take those things off, mix and match what you see on this dashboard with other information that's relevant to you and your role within your organization. So very easy to change this so that when you log in, what you see on a daily basis is those things and those metrics that are critical to you and your role within the business. So here we see a combination of KPIs across the top. We see some different charts. We see a report at the bottom. Across the top, we have what we call slicers. And you can add, out of the box, you'll get various slicers, but you can change these easily. And what they allow you to do is look at the data in different ways. So in this case here, I've got an organizational hierarchy that I've configured where I can come in and look at, maybe I've got a U.S. group. I've got a division within the U.S. group called the North American division and different companies under that. So if I wanted to look at this data for just one company, I can select that, and now the underlying data is updated for me automatically. And this capability is available on any dashboard or report in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and select all companies again. Even down to the site level, if I've got specific sites and I want to view financial data, transaction data down to that level, I can do that as well. Dates, so you always have the option to pick a particular time period for data. We allow you to group, in this case here, we're looking at purchasing data, but the same would apply for your customers, your suppliers, your items of the products that you sell, or in this case that you buy, maybe raw materials. You've got a lot of different categories that you can use, and these are just demonstration categories. Just think of this list reflecting the different types of products that you buy, and then you can even come down here down to the SKU level and look at this particular view just for a category of products that you buy, or maybe even specific SKUs. So very easy to work with. And then I've got other types of suppliers. Maybe I've got Spanish suppliers, French suppliers, and this is just another way that you can slice and dice, in this case, purchasing data. All these reports are drillable. So I'll look at this. Okay, we're buying a lot of this product, but it's a dashboard. I don't have a lot of data, but I want to know more about exactly what did I buy here, who did I buy it from. I can drill down on this information. So if I just double click, it takes me down to the details now. The bulk of this $5 million in purchases was made with this supplier for this particular product. And if I want to, I can actually come in here and click this hyperlink, and it's now taking me back into enterprise management, and I've got full access to the business transaction. So in this case, it was a purchase transaction, a purchase invoice. I've got an attachment that I could view if I want to get more details here. If I want to go in and view related information, I can use this link down here to view the payment that may have been made to the supplier, review a journal entry, or even if I look at this related data, I can go all the way back to the receipt that came in, maybe some notes that were attached to the receipt of whatever I purchased, or even the purchase order. So I've got links to go back in and view the purchase order here. So all the information, not only in this case for the transaction at hand, which was this purchase invoice, but all the related information is very easy to get to. So let's go ahead and close out of this. Let's take a look at another dashboard. So we go back to enterprise management. I've got a CFO dashboard. So, let's not forget the financial professionals. There's very relevant data for them as well. And we'll snap this out to a separate tab. So just like we saw on the purchasing manager's dashboard, we have the option to slice this across the top using the same organizational hierarchy by site, by date. We've got other ways to look at this as well. Now, this dashboard includes financial KPIs across the top, liquidity metrics, quick ratio, debt ratios, profitability metrics, outstanding receivables and payables. Then again, these are all drillable where you can go down to as low a level of detail as you need. So here we've got gross margins as well as operating profit margins. And this line here represents our margins. So in this period here, we can hover over that and see we had a 49.5% operating margin. One unique thing on this dashboard is the ability to look at this by, say, things like product lines. And we support this using a capability in enterprise management called dimensional accounting. And you may be looking at this and going, well, I could get my gross margins with my sales data. That's very easy. I know how much I sold everything for, and I know what the cost of everything was that I sold. It's a little more challenging when it comes to net profit margins or operating margins because you got to consider overhead costs and other costs that have been allocated out. Enterprise management does a very nice job of that. And this is the end result where you can come in and look at margins, both gross and net, for just a particular product line or two. We can click these off, and then the underlying data will be updated as well to reflect the margins just on those specific products. Maybe you look at your data by projects, you could do that as well. Manufacturing manager's dashboard. There's another out-of-the-box dashboard. Just think maybe you mix and match, a couple KPIs from this with the other dashboards that we've seen to create that perfect dashboard to come in and help you, to serve as a compass for your business to help guide decisions on a daily basis. So here we're looking at manufacturing data. It has access to all of your bill of material data, basically all the work orders that are in progress. What am I building? Have I achieved my quantities for the particular day or period? Do I have the remaining work to do? How are my costs tracking against any standards that I've defined? Regardless of what your accounting method is, you can define expected costs and then track variances against that with enterprise management. What are variances? This is looking at variances, production variances in aggregate, but I could just as easily look at these at a more granular level, maybe down to labor variances, machinery variances, purchasing variances, which was actually on the purchasing manager's dashboard that we just looked at a minute ago. So that's production manager's dashboard. We're going to look at one more dashboard here, just kind of an introduction then again to the out-of-the-box dashboards that we have with the EMDA. So this would be for a sales professional. This is actually, we call this our VP sales dashboard. We've got one for sales managers and then also one for individual sales reps. So you can even on this dashboard drill down to an individual sales rep if needed. The manager, in this case, the VP, has visibility of all sales across the organization for the area of the business that this person owns. What were sales for this month? Sales for this quarter? Sales for this year? How many sales did we have? 4? Maybe that's great. If we sell $150 million contracts, very customizable manufactured items, that could be a stellar month. How are we tracking against any targets that we've defined? Contribution margins for the various products that we've sold is showing down in this section of the dashboard as well. Who are we selling to? And I apologize, the data in our demo database is not extremely strong in this area, but whatever segments you've defined, you may categorize your customers in different ways. This particular chart here could reflect that, or would reflect that. In addition to dashboards like this, we've just got plain old, reports, list of, purchasing data, sales activity. And in this case, it's a financial report. Financial reports are oftentimes done in a point solution. So, the people putting financial reports together have to learn how to use a separate solution. And then when they build a financial report, they got to know how to do it in one tool. But when they're putting a sales report together, they use a completely different tool. That's not the case with the EMDA. It does a phenomenal job of building financial reports. So we got the same types of slicers. We could drill down here to the transaction level details if we needed to, as we saw a minute ago. And we can slice it by the same way. Remember, we saw the ability to see in chart view what gross and net margins were for particular products. I'm doing the same thing here now on a financial report. So we've got a 48% gross margin, and then my net margin is only 38% because I had these extra overhead costs and operating expenses that have been allocated out to these product lines. So the point here is not to go into the great details about an income statement, but it is a unique type of report that we can produce very well. So it's one set of data, one version of the truth, one place to go get all your data to build the report packages and the dashboards that you need across the entire business. So we're going to move on to another. We're going to move out of enterprise management into a portal here that we have that allows users to come in and view reports that are relevant to them, or even the dashboards that we saw previously outside of the context of enterprise management. You may have users that they don't need to log into enterprise management to access the transactions or do manufacturing activities or set up POs, but they need all this great information. So you can come here to get that. You can organize these folders in any way that you'd like. So I got a folder here for supply chain, people in payroll, and some other finance. We go into supply chain. I can even drill down further. Maybe I want to see an inventory type report, so we can click this, and maybe we'll look at an aging report. Let's see how kind of a view of inventory from an aging standpoint. Let's see what this report looks like. This is a standard aging report that we have. It's literally going out now and collecting aggregate information by SKU for different periods of time to see when inventory was purchased. Well, here's the report. So I've got different SKUs and how much of each SKU I've purchased over different time periods. If you have products that expire, you can kind of look at it from that standpoint too. This is really looking at when did I buy these products, or when did I manufacture these products. If you wanted to look at when the products expire, you could do that type of a view as well. So just the point of showing you that portal was to show you that you can access these this type of information outside of enterprise management just through a tablet or through a web browser. In this case here, we've transitioned into a view where you're going to go, if you want to do on-the-fly analysis, or maybe you need to build a new report to share with others, you'll come here to do that. And we've seen a lot of pretty reports and dashboards that were already built. But what if we just need to kind of build something from scratch, or maybe start with a very basic, kind of boring-looking report like we're seeing here? All we see here is we see, companies and then some sales data here. This is sales data. If I hover over that, I can see it's sales data. And that's about it. But let's say we want to look at this data in different ways. Maybe we want to look at, the sales data by customer over different time periods. Along the left-hand side here, we've got all the different ways that we can, on the fly, view sales data. We can view it by customer, like I said, by company, by product, by project, by sales rep. And there's just a long list of different ways to look at this data. So to make those type changes, let's just go ahead and take a look at the same data, maybe by customer. We just go in here and we're going to look at now sales by, let's look at it by company first and then customer. So now I'm looking at sales by company, by customer here. And let's say I mentioned you could look at this over different time periods. We have this data option here. It very easily allows you to come in and look at this data year over year, or by quarter, or by month. So let's just look at this by quarter. And now we're looking at the same sales data with the details by quarter. And I could come in here and further, maybe just pick one quarter of the year. I want to look at just Q2, and now let's look at this by month. So it's very easy to work with this data. You can, the same type of formatting you can do in Excel to make this report look good. You just come in here, we're going to change, maybe change the formatting. We'll make this look a little better. We could throw a logo on there if we want, and we can rename things just like in Excel. I don't like the name of this header. We want to call this customer. We'll go ahead and rename that. Maybe we'll make this bold. We want to drag this guy down a little like this. And then we want to annotate, because everybody's going to ask, why were sales, so high to this customer, or maybe so low? We can head those questions off by, annotating here. So this is high or low, whatever it is, for whatever reason. Then the consumers of these reports will have access to these notes. And what you can do is head off time from questions that you're going to get the minute somebody consumes this data. And that can save a lot of time as well. One other thing, just as far as on-the-fly analysis, let's just change this view. Let's make it a little simpler. We're going to go in here and let's just look at same sales data, but we want to look at the sales data by the products that we sell. So if we come into products, and let's look at this by the different types of products that we sell. What we can do is we can come in and turn on a chart view for any kind of a worksheet type view. We call it a table view. It looks like a spreadsheet. But let's say we want to look at this graphically. We just click this option here, and now we have a chart view of this exact same data. And we can come in through this chart option and change it. Maybe we want to look at it in a pie chart format instead. And we could change the way add a legend to this and all types of changes. The same types of things you could do in Excel. In addition to all the standard charting options that you may see in a BI type tool, the bar charts and the pie charts and the line charts, we have other things like a word cloud. And this is a great view. I really like this one a lot because it really helps you understand the data very, very quickly. So by looking at this right here, it immediately jumps out at me that I'm selling more byproducts than anything else, and food is a close second, and maybe information technology right there as well. It doesn't work on every type of data, but I think in a case like this, it's very good, and it's something unique that we have that you may not find in every BI type solution. So this is kind of on-the-fly analysis. We can take these reports, build them into nice report packages, save them off, and share them with other individuals as well. We can take this same sales data and plot it on maps. So this is that same sales data. I've just turned it on to plot it on a map of the U.S. I mean, I could come in here and pick other companies across the world and see, what are my sales over here, in Europe, and I could actually, focus down and kind of look at sales in other countries. And this is great because you can actually take these views and look at it in a way that shows you, that concentrates the data in particular areas. So take the U.S., we could look at, our sales, maybe just in, let's go ahead and zoom out of this. We could look at sales. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I do just want to be cognizant of time. We do want to leave a few minutes for Q&A. So I don't know how much more of the demo we have, but we do want to move to questions and answers shortly.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure.
Just a few. Yeah, perfect, Brad. I'll give me no more than probably 3 or 4 minutes. I'm almost done.
Great.
Appreciate the time, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. So the point here, you can take data and display it, graphically on, maps like we're seeing here, and it can help you identify, not only areas where you're currently selling, but I think the reverse is even more important. Where am I not selling? Because that's a sales opportunity. 2 more things. Customer profitability is taking that same sales data and maybe looking at margins by customer. So I literally just took that same report. We got a short timeline here in this, lunch and learn. So I just added in the contribution margin and did some formatting. Green is good. I've got high contribution margins for certain customers. Maybe lower is not so good. Maybe I got a lot of competitive pressure selling to a particular customer. If nothing else, it's good information. It can help drive decisions. Now, last thing I wanted to share in the demonstration, was the back-end data management capability. So this is what's going to allow you to manage that one version of the truth, to access all the data across your business in one place. And this is where the magic happens. And this is, instead of spending, as John said, 80% of your time trying to get all the data and capture all the data and, manually throw it in Excel, spreadsheets and reports, this is where basically you're going to be able to automate that. As a solution engineer, I spent a lot of time back here. What I showed you in business is the pretty dashboards that we just went through. But this is really where the magic happens, and really is going to allow you to basically achieve your goals and get the data that you need to drive the good decisions is back here. And this is where so many businesses are spending so much time. I've got a connection to a Salesforce database. I got a connection to enterprise management. That's native. I pulled in a few other spreadsheets, and I could add others through this data source option. Going in and changing the way particular types of data work and the fields that are available is done through this pipelines option. Relationships, it does smart modeling. So you don't have to think a lot about, what are the relationships between this type of data and other, ERP or financial data, because the system is going to do that for you. It has what we call smart modeling. That's not, it doesn't mean that, occasionally you're not going to have to go in and relate this piece of data back to, another type of data in your system. But my point is a lot of that is done for you automatically using our smart modeling. I find when I'm doing data work, it's amazing how many relationships it finds without me. I may not even been aware of the relationship, but it sets it up for me automatically. And that just improves my ability to report on the data. So this is the data hub portion of the solution. It's included with EMDA. It's the D piece of EMDA, the data piece, allowing you to manage that data effectively across the organization. So if we go back to where we started, just to kind of close it out, this is a CEO's dashboard that kind of pulls together, John's point. And let's not measure 100 different things. And maybe this is too many. Maybe we get it down to our top 5 or 6. I go back to what I said a minute ago. You measure 100 things, you haven't measured anything. This pulls together some KPIs across the business at the top, looks at some margins, looks at some production data, looks at some receivables from my customers. Who owes me what? I can drill down on these to get more details. This customer owes me a lot. Well, I want to drill in and figure out what they owe me in other data. So that concludes the the demonstration here. And Brad, we can open it up to questions now at this time.
All right, I appreciate that, Steve. Let me just go ahead and take that back over. And yeah, like Steve said, let's go ahead and open that up to questions. I know that we had a couple come in as we were presenting, so I will start with those. So the first question is, I'm seeing medium and large enterprise leadership talk a lot about how they want visibility into critical operations and data analytics to make decisions, but they don't have a sound rationale for buying it. How do you justify a spend for information they don't have yet, i.e. new data and visibility? I know that was a mouthful,
yeah.
But hopefully you guys got that.
Yeah. We do. Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, one of the reasons why they're looking for more data is there's an underlying problem in the business someplace, and they can't quite put their finger on what that is, and they can't get the right information to do it. So the saying, I can't manage what I can't measure, and I can't measure what I can't see. It's hard to put a fast ROI on that, but if you can solve that one business problem, what does that mean? And that's the question. It has to be, this is more of a value proposition than a budgetary proposition.
Yeah. And maybe looking at your strategies that you're trying to drive there, and what's the value of those strategies if executed properly, and recognizing this is a critical component to that. So, it's a means to the end. And the only other thing that I would throw out is maybe taking that, if you got you mentioned a kind of a medium to large size enterprise, you may have some resources that are going through this pain today of capturing data. How much time are they putting into that? Maybe it's a full FTE, maybe it's a portion of an FTE, maybe even using that 80% metric to where, they could, to come up with a quantifiable amount of time to calculate time savings there that could help produce a kind of a value of using an automated solution like this. The time would have to be redirected towards other activities, but time savings may be another approach you could take.
All right, great.
Good question.
Another question, and I think this might have been a little timely. Steve, I think it was when you were showing some pivot tables. The question, it just says that these look like pivot tables, not necessarily BI tools. So I don't know if there's anything to address that. I know you did show some tools as well, but if you want to add anything to that, Steve.
It behaves like a pivot tool. Then you've got different types of data, different attributes, different dimensions that you can work with to take different views of data to view both in a tabular or a graphical format. But it is most definitely a full business intelligence solution. It has multiple layers of technology. It builds a full data warehouse. It has uses SQL Server analysis services, to aggregate a lot of the data up. So it is most definitely a full business intelligence solution versus just, pivot tables, maybe, supported through a pivot table type solution.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's see. If anyone else has any questions, please go ahead and type those in through the Q&A, through the chat. We're happy to address those as we're waiting for more to come in. I do want to just quickly tell you about Liberty Technology Advisors. LTA is a 100% independent management consulting company. We're focused on improving our clients' business performance, systems, and processes. And our team of experienced consultants are actively engaged at every step of this project. And let's tell you more about Sage. Sage brings affordable and flexible ERP solutions to the SMB market globally, with enterprise management as its premier product for the middle marketplace. Sage offers companies a lifetime partnership through its products and services. Again, this was the final installment of a 4-part series. These are all available or going to be available online. Today's will be available shortly. The rest are all online already. We'll go ahead and send that out in an email to you. It doesn't look like we've had any more questions come through. If you do have any questions that come up either later today or down the line, please reach out to us. If it's geared towards LTA, you can reach out to Joe Ambrose, our practice director. His information is on the screen. And if it's a question for Sage, you can reach out directly to James Neptune, regional sales manager. Jim's information is also on the screen. It does not look like any more questions have come through. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank John and Steve for taking time to walk us through everything. And we look forward to doing some joint ventures down the line.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks all.